You wake to the faint creak of wood, the kind that only old cabins make when they breathe. The sound rises softly through the floorboards, followed by a low sigh from the wind outside. For a moment, you lie perfectly still, the blanket heavy on your chest. The air crisp enough that each breath feels like glass turning to warmth inside your lungs. You don't open your eyes right away. You let the silence settle, waiting for your mind to catch up to your body. There's no rush here, no knock at the door, no voice calling your name. Just the small pulse of your heartbeat against the cold morning air. When you finally look, light meets you gently, pale blue-gray, filtered through frost. The window above your bed is veiled in thin ice, and the shapes of feathers have formed there overnight. Frost patterns so delicate they look alive. The world beyond is only suggestion. Outlines of masts, soft blurs of snow, a quiet that holds the sound of distant water. You sit up slowly, and the blanket slides down to your lap. The wood beneath your feet is cold but clean. A faint smell of ash lingers from last night's fire, sweet and dry, mixed with the sharp scent of pine. The stove in the corner stands waiting, its iron sides gray with sleep. You cross the room, open the small hatch, and find the ghost of warmth still hidden inside. A single ember glows faintly, no larger than a coin, but still alive. You smile. It feels good to see something holding on. You feed it a handful of kindling, strike the flint, and breathe life into the spark. The fire responds, slowly at first, then with purpose. Flame curls upward, soft and orange, licking the wood as if remembering how. The cabin fills with that gentle, uneven heartbeat of crackling wood. Heat takes its time finding you, but when it does, it feels earned. You pour a little water into a kettle and set it on the stove. The hiss as it touches iron sounds like a sigh of approval. While it warms, you move through the cabin, small tasks done by memory. You fold the blanket, tie back the curtain, stack the boots by the door. You move without hurry, each motion an act of quiet preparation. The kettle begins to murmur. You pour steaming water into a tin cup lined with dried leaves and bark, the same blend you've carried since autumn. The scent rises immediately. Cedar, heather, and smoke. You hold the cup close, letting the warmth kiss your fingertips. The first sip is earthy and green, the kind of taste that wakes you gently, not sharply. You walk to the window, wipe a small circle clear with your thumb, and peer out. The harbor below still sleeps beneath its shawl of frost. Boats rest at their moorings like animals at peace. Ropes hang stiff and white with frozen dew. The sky is the color of pewter, the kind of light that doesn't yet know if it belongs to morning or night. A few birds cut through the mist, small, dark silhouettes that move like thoughts you haven't finished having. You follow their path until they disappear into the gray. Somewhere unseen, a bell rings once, maybe twice. The sound echoes over the frozen water, slow and deliberate, then fades as if carried off by the fog. You turn back to the room and glance at the table. Your belongings sit neatly arranged. Gloves, compass, journal, and a parcel wrapped in cloth and sealed with red wax. Next to it lies a folded note, edges rough, ink a little faded. You pick it up and unfold it carefully, tracing each word with your eyes. For the village beyond the mountain ridge. The road will be quiet this time of year. The medicine is simple but needed. Travel with care and rest where the forest bends north. The firelight will guide you home. You read it twice, slowly, letting the shape of each sentence linger in your mind. There's no urgency in the words, only trust. You fold the paper again, press the crease flat with your thumb, and tuck it into your coat's inner pocket. The seal on the parcel catches the light, deep red against pale fabric. You touch it once, gently. The circle of pine needles embossed in wax, a promise in miniature. You finish your tea, set the cup down, and begin dressing for the cold. Wool layers first, one, then another. You pull the cloak from its peg, the heavy fabric carrying the scent of wood smoke and travel. Boots next. Stiff at first, then forgiving. You fasten the buckles, the sound sharp in the quiet room. When you reach for your gloves, a small note of habit surfaces. You turn them inside out to check for frost. They're dry, soft, ready. You smile again, quietly proud of the small consistencies that keep you whole. The kettle is empty now, a faint ring of steam still clinging to its rim. You pour the last drop into the cup and drink it cold, not wanting to waste what's left of warmth. Then you kneel by the stove, closing its door halfway, leaving the fire to fade on its own. No need to rush it. Endings deserve their pace, too. You shoulder your pack, then lift the parcel, placing it carefully in the sled waiting outside the door. The runners gleam faintly with a thin film of frost, clean lines that promise ease on the snow. You test the rope in your hand. It slides through your glove like silk. The cold nips at your cheeks immediately, reminding you that the world beyond the door is larger than memory. You pause for a moment on the threshold. Behind you, the cabin hums with quiet, the faint pop of settling wood, the whisper of heat still breathing through iron. Before you, the harbor stretches out under morning's fragile light. The difference between them feels like a heartbeat, one soft, one vast. You step outside. The air greets you not with a bite, but with a kind of clean honesty. It wakes every sense at once. The smell of salt, the crispness of ice, the faint sweetness of distant pine. Your breath drifts upward, silver and soft. Each exhale looks like a small cloud that the wind collects and carries away. Snow crunches beneath your boots, that satisfying crisp rhythm that immediately becomes a part of your heartbeat. You take your first few steps toward the main road, the sled gliding obediently behind you. Its runners make a faint hiss on the hard-packed snow, a sound so even it might as well be the measure of time itself. You pause at the edge of the harbor to look back. The boats rest quietly, sails furled and frozen. Lanterns still glow on a few masts, their reflections trembling in the thin layer of ice that coats the water. Smoke curls from a chimney near the inn. Someone else's breakfast, someone else's beginning. You take in the scene one last time, not as farewell, but as gratitude. You whisper under your breath, not words exactly, but something that means thank you. It dissolves instantly into the cold air, joining the breath of the day. Ahead, the path winds gently upward through the pines. The light deepens from gray to silver to the softest shade of gold. You tighten the strap of your pack, test your footing once, and step forward. The harbor falls away behind you. Every sound, the gulls, the creak of wood, the hush of waves beneath ice, fades into distance until there's only snow and wind. The scent of salt lingers faintly on your coat, carried with you like a quiet reminder that you began where water meets the world. You walk until the last glimpse of the harbor is gone. Ahead lies the long white road, quiet, endless, welcoming. The forest waits, the sky lightens, and the first true sound of morning, your own steady breath, takes its place in the day. The first turn of the path greets you with stillness, the kind of stillness that holds sound rather than erases it. Your boots sink gently into the snow, each step leaving a clear impression that the wind immediately begins to soften. Behind you, the harbor is already half lost to fog. Only the tops of the masts show now, gray lines in the pale air, fading more with every step. You pull your scarf higher and breathe through the whirl. Each exhale warms your cheeks for a moment before the cold reclaims it. The sled glides behind you, obedient, almost weightless. Its runners make that long, steady hiss, like a whisper stretched across time. You find the rhythm naturally. Step, glide, breath. Step, glide, breath. A quiet metronome that belongs only to you. The road curves upward into the trees. Their trunks stand close and straight, spaced like old pillars built by patience. Snow clings to the bark, softening every edge until even the shadows look gentle. You can smell the forest before you're fully inside it. Pine sap, frost, the faint sweetness of lichen hidden beneath the white. You reach out once, brushing your gloved hand along a branch as you pass. Snow falls away in a small shower of glitter, soundless but bright. For a heartbeat, the flakes catch sunlight and turn gold. Then the moment closes again, as if it had only opened for you. Deeper in, the world narrows to shades of white and green and quiet gray. You can hear your own breathing louder than the wind. Every so often, a small sound breaks the silence, the faint crack of ice shifting on a branch or the distant tap of falling snow from somewhere unseen. They are not interruptions, only reminders that the forest is alive. You stop once to adjust the strap on your pack. The leather creaks, the sound warm and familiar against the still air. You take a sip from your flask, the water cold enough to sting slightly. It wakes the back of your throat, clears your thoughts. When you lower it, the silence returns instantly, seamless. You begin walking again, slower now, not because you're tired, but because the world invites slowness. The forest floor rolls gently, sometimes dipping into shallow hollows where the snow gathers deeper. The sled follows easily, its whisper blending with the soft crunch beneath your boots. As the hours stretch, the light shifts overhead. What began as silver has become faint gold. catching on every branch and snowdrift. You watch as sunlight filters through the pines, thin columns of warmth that move with the wind. Each one lights the air with tiny particles of frost. They hang there like dust made of stars. You stop just to look. You let the stillness take you in. The forest does not care how long you stand there. It only waits. And in that waiting, something inside you slows too, a quiet alignment with the day. When you move again, the sound of your boots feels different, lower, softer, the rhythm deepened by the world's acceptance of you. You notice how the cold sits on your face, not sharp anymore, but alive, a texture more than a sting. You breathe through it and realize how light your body feels when you stop fighting the chill and simply let it exist. A few small birds flutter across the trail ahead, their wings tiny blurs of brown and white. They land on a fallen log, hop twice, and vanish into the brush. Their brief motion leaves the air trembling. You watch the last snow they disturbed fall in lazy spirals. Then the forest closes its silence again, complete. You begin to hum quietly, not a song, just a sound to keep your thoughts warm. It merges with the steady hiss of the sled. The two rhythms, human and wood, become one voice. Soon the ground flattens into a narrow pass where the trees give way to an open field. The change in air is immediate. The scent of pine fades, replaced by the dry brightness of open snow. You emerge into light that feels wide enough to walk through forever. The field stretches for miles, smooth, untouched, almost luminous. The horizon trembles in a thin line of blue-white haze. You stop, letting your eyes adjust. The silence here is heavier than in the forest. But it's not empty. It's filled with the weight of distance. An expanse that holds everything, yet asks nothing. You start across slowly, the sled gliding easily behind. Each footstep crunches with a satisfying crispness that echoes faintly. The sound travels farther here like it has more room to live. You listen to it fade and realize how strange it is to be the only source of noise in a world this large. Halfway through, you pause and tilt your head upward. The sky above has opened into a soft blue sheet, thin clouds painted across it like brushstrokes. The sun sits low but strong, a white circle wrapped in a halo of frost. Its light makes the snow glitter so brightly it almost hurts to look at. You close your eyes and just feel it instead. Warmth without heat, brightness without pressure. You kneel to rest. The sled stops with a faint sigh behind you. Your knees sink into the snow, and the cold seeps gently through the fabric. Not unpleasant, only present. You remove your gloves and rub your palms together, watching the faint steam rise from your breath and skin. The world feels vast and kind at once. You reach for your pack, pulling out a small piece of bread wrapped in cloth. It's hard at the edges, soft inside. You break it in half, eat slowly, savoring the taste. Simple, honest, a flavor that belongs to effort. A sip of water follows, and the chill bites in again, clearing everything foggy from your thoughts. You glance back the way you came. The forest now looks like a line of ink drawn across white paper. You can't see the harbor anymore, just the faint curve of hill where it used to be. It's strange how quickly places become memories once you've walked far enough away. The sun leans westward as you stand again. The wind shifts, gentle but constant, brushing the edge of your hood. You tighten your scarf and start walking. The path here is less distinct, but instinct guides you north, always north. The sled glides behind, its tracks marking a neat twin trail through untouched snow. You watch those lines for a moment and think how fragile they are. By morning, the wind will erase them completely. You don't mind. There's a kind of peace in knowing the world forgets quickly. It means every journey remains new. The air grows colder as the light lowers. A faint haze begins to gather over the distant trees ahead, like breath rising from the forest itself. You pull your cloak tighter, but your steps stay steady. The cold isn't unwelcome. It sharpens you, keeps you present. Eventually, the ground begins to rise again. Pines return, scattered at first, then dense enough to catch the light in pockets. Their branches are laden with snow that shifts gently when the wind sighs. You move through them quietly, boots sinking deeper now, sled trailing a little slower. Here, the silence changes. It feels closer, warmer somehow, a quiet with shape. You can hear faint trickles of water somewhere under the frozen ground, moving unseen. Every so often, a small breeze moves through and shakes snow from a high branch. It falls in a slow shimmer, catching the gold of late afternoon before landing soundlessly. You pause to watch it. One flake lands on your glove, delicate as lace. You hold still and watch it melt. So quick, so gentle, it feels like a lesson in impermanence. When it's gone, you look up again, and the world feels both bigger and smaller all at once. You come to a small rise in the terrain and stop to catch your breath. From here, you can see farther, the road curling north through a valley of white and shadow. Far beyond that, faint ridges rise like the edges of folded parchment. Somewhere beyond them lies the village, the one from the note. You don't know its name, and that feels right. The journey is simpler without names. You pull a glove off and reach into your coat, touching the folded paper again. The inked words have weight even through the fabric. You think of the person who wrote them, whoever they were, and the faith they placed in you. It's a small thing, carrying medicine, but the simplicity of it feels like purpose enough for any day. The light is golden now, the kind that lasts only a few breaths before turning to blue. You start down the slope toward the trees, your shadow long and stretched. It moves ahead of you, sliding across the snow like a guide who already knows the way. The forest below glows at the edges where the last of the sun threads through. You can see the shimmer of ice on the branches, the faint glitter of frost hanging in the air. When you reach the base of the hill, you pause once more to breathe. The air tastes clean here, colder, sharper, purer. You rest your hand on the sled and smile quietly to yourself. The road north has been kind today. No storms, no surprises, only the long patience of snow and silence. You look up at the dimming sky, already streaked with pale bands of gray and silver. The day is almost done. You continue into the forest, the trees closing behind you like a door. The light fades to that soft half-shadow that belongs only to evening in winter. Each sound becomes rounder, slower. Your steps, the sled, your breath. You can feel the day's rhythm lowering, preparing to rest. Up ahead, through the trees, you spot something. A small clearing, faintly open, the suggestion of space. You recognize it immediately. A place that looks like it's waiting for firelight. You let the sled roll to a gentle stop. Your breath forms clouds that drift upward into the last light of dusk. You close your eyes and listen. Wind, wood, heartbeat. It's enough. You nod once and know this is where you'll make camp. The forest thins gradually, the trees parting in small, uncertain clusters until the world opens like a held breath, finally released. You pause at the edge of it, letting your eyes adjust to the sudden wideness. The light here feels lighter, not brighter, but softer, like snow remembering the sun. The meadow spreads out before you in a long, low curve, white upon white, rolling in folds that catch the last of the afternoon gold. A wind moves gently across it, lifting a skin of snow that drifts like fine smoke. It's a living silence, the kind that listens back. You let go of the sled's rope and stand still for a moment, breathing. Your lungs fill with cold that tastes faintly of pine and stone. Each breath curls upward in silver ribbons before fading into air. Behind you, the forest stands in quiet approval. Tall, steady witnesses to the journey so far. You take a few steps into the open. The snow crunches beneath your boots, clean, crisp, confident. The sound carries farther than you expect, echoing faintly off the hills. It's a sound that makes you aware of distance, of how far you've come, and how alone the quiet can feel without being lonely. The sled follows easily, runners whispering behind you. You stop again, halfway across the meadow, kneeling briefly to touch the snow. It's light, powdery, not too deep, good ground beneath it. You brush away a small patch with your gloved hand and feel firmness underneath. Frozen soil, even and dry. You nod to yourself. This is good ground, solid enough for rest, open enough for stars, sheltered just enough by the forest's shoulder. You pull the sled beside you and kneel again, scanning the edges of the meadow. A stand of pines leans close to the north side, their roots rising slightly above the snow in twisted, graceful lines. Between them, a natural hollow dips just enough to break the wind. It feels like a place that's been waiting. You lead the sled toward it. The pines grow denser here, their branches arching overhead, heavy with snow that catches the fading light. The air smells stronger, resin and frost, that perfect balance of sharp and sweet. When you step inside the hollow, the wind softens immediately, replaced by a hush so complete it feels padded. You stop in the center and set the sled down. It gives a quiet sigh as the runners settle. You straighten slowly, stretching your back. Then roll your shoulders to shake off the weight of distance. The body always knows when the day's walking is done. You begin to pace the small circle of the clearing, measuring the ground, the slope, the way light and shadow move across it. You picture where the fire will live, where you'll sleep, how the sled will rest beside you. These are small choices, but they matter. Every camp is a conversation between need and kindness. You start by clearing the snow. Using your gloved hands and the flat side of your boot, you scrape away a circle about as wide as your outstretched arms. The rhythm of the work is steady. Scrape, brush, step, scrape, brush, step. Each motion warms you a little more. Beneath the snow, the ground reveals itself in patches of frost-dark earth and small stones, smooth and round. You work until you can see the full ring of earth, dark against the white around it. When it's done, you rest your hands on your knees and exhale. Steam curls from your breath and hangs above the circle for a moment, then fades. You walk the perimeter once more, pressing down the snow with your boots to create a low lip, a soft wall to cradle the warmth later. When you step back, the shape of the fire pit looks simple and sure, like it's always been there, waiting under the snow. You kneel at the sled and begin to unpack your supplies. First, the small hatchet, the blade wrapped in cloth, then a bundle of kindling tied in twine, dry and fragrant. Next, the kettle, the cup, a folded blanket, a small pouch of salt and herbs, and finally the parcel, still sealed, still unshaken. You lay everything out in careful order beside the fire circle, as you've done countless times before. Then, wood. You stand and walk to the nearest tree, a fallen pine resting against its own shadow. You brush snow from its trunk, listening to the faint hump as it falls. The bark is cold, but the wood beneath feels dry. Good. You strike with a hatchet, the sound sharp and certain in the still air. Thock, thock. Each swing echoes, bouncing gently off the trees before fading into distance. You split only what you need, 3 thick logs for the base, smaller branches for layering, twigs and bark for the start. When you carry them back to the circle, the smell of fresh-cut pine trails behind you clean and sweet. You stack them in a loose pyramid, the way habit and patience have taught you. The kindling comes next, thin curls of bark arranged like a small nest. You pull a dry handful of twigs from your pocket and scatter them lightly on top. Your breath alone is enough to make the smallest pieces tremble. You kneel back and look at it. The quiet architecture of a fire before its life begins. It looks fragile, yet ready. You reach into your coat and find the flint and steel wrapped in cloth. You place them gently on your knee, feeling their familiar weight. But before you strike, you pause, because the first spark should never feel hurried. You take off your gloves and set them aside. The cold rushes in instantly, but it's not cruel. It's clarifying. You rub your palms together once, then hover them over the small pile of wood as though introducing yourself. The wind brushes through the trees once, softly enough that the sound feels like breath. Then it's still again. You strike. The flint flashes white, the spark catching on the bark. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then a thread of orange curls upward. You lean in, breathing carefully, guiding it with slow exhalations. It takes, small and sure, growing the way sound does when the world decides to listen. The fire begins, not suddenly, but gracefully, a quiet unfurling of light from the center outward. You feed it a few more twigs, each one taken with gratitude. Soon, flame moves like a living thought, soft, deliberate, unafraid. You sit back on your heels and watch the light touch the ring of stones, each one reflecting warmth in its own muted way. The shadows shift around you, growing longer, calmer. The last of the daylight turns gold at the tops of the pines, then slips quietly into blue. You add the larger logs now, one at a time. The fire crackles, stretches, then settles into its rhythm. The heat reaches you in waves, gentle but certain. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders, and for the first time all day, the cold steps back. The forest reacts in silence, not retreating, just making room. The air smells of pine, smoke, and earth. You look up. The first stars are out now, faint points of silver scattered in the darkening blue. They feel close, like they've been waiting for you to sit still. You reach for the kettle, fill it with a scoop of clean snow, and set it on the stones near the fire's edge. The hiss is soft, like fabric being ironed. You watch the snow collapse inside, melt, steam rising in thin, silvery ribbons. When you add herbs from your pouch, the scent blooms. Mint, cedar, and a faint trace of dried berries. While it steeps, you tend to the sled, turning it slightly, checking the rope, brushing the frost from the parcel. Your hands move automatically, calm and practiced. The weight of the day falls from your shoulders little by little, replaced by something stiller. Not exhaustion, but belonging. The kettle begins to hum. You pour carefully, steam ghosting over your hands. The first sip warms you in layers, tongue, throat, chest, then the space between thoughts. You close your eyes. You can feel the entire day dissolving sound by sound. The forest, the wind, the echo of your own footsteps in the snow. Only the fire remains. Only this moment of stillness here in the hollow where warmth finally found you. You set the cup beside you and breathe in deeply through your nose. The scent of smoke, pine, and tea blend into one. When you exhale, it's slow, content, final. The light of the fire dances across your boots, then your hands, then the faint lines of the sled. The world beyond is deep blue now, the color between twilight and night when everything holds its breath. You pull the blanket from the sled and wrap it around your shoulders. The fabric smells faintly of travel, of places already behind you. The kettle ticks softly as it cools. A small ember pops, then sighs into ash. You look up once more. The stars have multiplied, the sky a field of quiet light. They shimmer not with urgency but with recognition, like distant fires answering yours. You lean back on your hands and smile, not from joy, but from peace. You've done what the day asked. You've carried what mattered, walked where the world allowed, and found the place that says rest here. The wind passes once more through the trees, brushing against your cheek before moving on. The meadow around you settles into silence, deep and sure, and as the fire burns steady and the stars lean a little closer, you close your eyes for just a moment, not to sleep yet, but simply to feel what stillness sounds like. The fire has found its rhythm now, not loud, not hurried, just steady, a soft conversation between wood and flame. It breathes in small sighs, the kind you make when the body finally allows itself to rest. You sit cross-legged on the ground, blanket still around your shoulders. The warmth reaches you in waves, slow and even, brushing your skin like the memory of sunlight. The air closest to the fire smells faintly of cedar and smoke, sharp, sweet, and grounding all at once. Every few seconds, a small spark lifts into the air, flares, then disappears into the dark above. You follow each one with your eyes until it's gone. The stars overhead look brighter now, clearer through the cold. They seem to hang lower than they did before, closer, as if they too have drawn near to the fire for warmth. The forest beyond the circle of light is deep and silent, but not empty. You can sense the slow, patient movement of things that live here, unseen but near. You pull your knees closer and wrap the blanket tighter. The firelight paints your boots in amber and your gloves in gold. The flames lean slightly toward the wind, but hold their shape. Each log glows from the inside out, its orange heart beating quietly. The kettle beside the stones hums faintly as it reheats. You reach for it with a careful hand, the handle warm but not hot. You pour a small stream into your tin cup, listening to the sound it makes, that soft, private murmur of water meeting metal. Steam curls upward, silver and slow. It catches the firelight and looks like a spirit deciding to linger a moment longer. You bring the cup close to your face and breathe it in. Herbs, wood, the faint sweetness of the snow you melted earlier, it all blends together into something that feels older than language. You take a sip, and it moves through you in layers. First warmth, then calm, then something deeper. Belonging. It's strange how even a single cup of tea can feel like an answer. You set it down beside you and stretch your hands toward the fire, your fingers flex, the knuckles catching orange light, the skin dry from cold and travel. The heat soaks into them slowly, waking 100 small sensations. You rub your palms together once, then rest them on your knees. The sound of the forest shifts almost imperceptibly. A low creak of wood bending under frost, the soft crumble of snow sliding from a branch. Somewhere in the distance, a faint rhythmic tapping, maybe a woodpecker or ice settling on stone. You don't try to name it, you just listen. The night doesn't need to be explained. You lean back slightly, propping yourself on your hands. The sky above is a deep, endless blue-black. Stars burn quietly in their places, and between them, the darkness feels soft, not empty, but full of rest. You let your gaze wander until you find one star brighter than the rest, fixed over the northern ridge. You hold it for a while, eyes half-lidded. It feels like an anchor, something to measure your breathing against. The fire pops once, drawing your attention back to the earth. A piece of resin hisses as it burns, releasing a small plume of blue smoke. It rises straight up before dissolving into the cold. You watch it go, and when it's gone, the space it leaves behind feels somehow more complete. You pick up the cup again, the metal cool now, and finish the last sip. Then you pour another small measure from the kettle, not because you're thirsty, but because the act itself feels good. Pouring is a kind of meditation. The sound, the rhythm, the tiny motion of balance between hands. As you drink, you glance toward the sled. It rests just beyond the light, covered in a thin sheen of frost that sparkles faintly when the fire flickers. The parcel lies secure beneath the folded blanket. You reach out and touch it once, not to check, but to acknowledge. It feels lighter than it did this morning, or maybe you've simply learned to carry it better. You think of the note inside your coat. You can almost see the handwriting again. Neat, firm, patient. The medicine is simple, but needed. The words echo faintly, not as weight, but as purpose. There's comfort in doing something that matters quietly. The world doesn't need to see it, only to receive it. You add another log to the fire. It lands with a soft thud, sending a swirl of sparks into the air. You watch them scatter, small constellations that last for the briefest moment before returning to ash. You smile at the thought that everything burning here is simply light changing shape. The kettle rattles softly as it settles on the stones again. You lift it away and set it aside, leaving the fire to itself. The flames twist lazily, weaving patterns across the air. You find yourself tracing them unconsciously with your fingertips, small arcs in the space before you, matching their rhythm. Your movements feel slow and deliberate, as though time itself has agreed to move only as fast as your hands. You reach into your pack and pull out your journal. The leather cover is stiff from cold, the edges softened from use. You open it to a blank page and let your pencil hover there. You don't write right away. You listen instead for words that want to be written. When they come, they're simple. Firelight steady, snow patient, stars closer than before. You pause, watching the graphite glint faintly in the flicker of the flames. Then you write one more line, small and quiet. I am not alone here. You close the journal and lay it beside your pack. The sound of the pages settling is soft and final. You run a thumb along its edge, feeling the slight texture of the cover. Everything about it feels earned. The weight, the warmth, the silence surrounding it. The fire hums lower now, its voice slower, more even. The logs have begun to glow from within, their surfaces dark, but their hearts alive. You add one last piece of wood, not to make it bigger, but to let it last. The flame curls around it with quiet gratitude. You lean forward, elbows on your knees, and watch the embers shift. The shapes inside the fire change constantly, patterns forming, fading, reforming again. It feels like watching thought itself, motion without urgency. You find yourself breathing in time with it. In, the crackle and glow. Out, the release of smoke and steam. A soft wind brushes through the clearing, carrying the scent of distant spruce. It lifts a few sparks into the air and stirs the blanket around your shoulders. You tighten it, but you don't mind the chill that lingers. Cold and warmth belong together here. One defines the other. You reach for the kettle again and pour a small amount of water over your fingers just to feel the change. The steam rises quickly, wrapping your hands in mist. When it fades, the skin tingles with both heat and cold. You hold them near the fire until the feeling balances out. The stars above seem brighter now. The air has thinned, the moisture pulled away by frost. Each breath you take feels sharper, cleaner. You tilt your head back and let your eyes trace the constellations. Some you know, others you only pretend to recognize, but all of them feel familiar. It's strange how even vastness can feel like company. You think about the journey still ahead, the ridge, the village, the promise tucked into the parcel's seal, but you don't plan it. Not tonight. The road will reveal itself in its own time. For now, this clearing, this fire, this hour, they are the whole world. You look at the fire again. It's smaller now, but steadier. The kind of flame that no longer needs tending. It burns on trust alone. You shift your position, sitting sideways now, one arm draped over your knee. Your body feels heavier, but not tired, more like the weight of peace. The wind moves again, this time carrying faint sounds, maybe ice breaking in the distance or a branch shifting. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. Each sound enters and leaves like a breath. Nothing stays, nothing demands. Even silence has movement if you listen long enough. You open your eyes and glance at the trees. Their outlines are silver under starlight. Frost has begun to form on the lower branches, shimmering faintly with each breath of air. The forest looks as though it's dressed for ceremony. You reach toward your pack again and pull out a small cloth bundle. Inside, a few dried sprigs of pine resin and a sliver of wax. You toss one resin piece onto the fire. It melts instantly, releasing a scent both sharp and sweet, like rain on warm bark. The smoke rises thin and blue, weaving itself among the flames before escaping into the sky. It smells like every winter you've ever known. You sit there for a long while, letting it burn. No thoughts now, only senses. The hiss of sap, the pop of coal, the flicker of light across your boots, the soft pressure of the blanket against your back. Everything exists quietly, without question. The kettle has cooled, but the smell of herbs still lingers in the air. You pour what remains into the snow beside you, where it hisses and disappears. A small circle of steam rises, then vanishes. You watch it go and smile. Even endings can be gentle. You place the empty cup upside down on the stone to keep frost from claiming it. Then you stretch your legs out toward the fire, crossing them at the ankles. Your boots reflect the light, small, warm gleams against the dark. You trace the pattern of their laces with your eyes, as though memorizing something that has already been memorized. You take one last deep breath through your nose. The scent of wood smoke fills every corner of thought. When you exhale, the world exhales with you. The night holds perfectly still for a heartbeat. Even the fire seems to pause. Then the smallest ember flares again, and the moment moves forward softly. You smile. You've reached the middle of the night, the point where warmth and stillness meet, where the world no longer asks anything from you. You adjust the blanket once more and settle back. The fire continues its quiet conversation. The stars continue their watching, and the forest, patient as always, listens to you breathe. The fire burns lower now, a soft orange heart breathing in the dark. It doesn't crackle anymore. It murmurs, a rhythm of coals shifting, settling, sighing. You sit with your hands wrapped around the cooling cup, watching the last logs glow from within. Each breath you take matches the pulse of light, in with the glow, out with the fade. You don't think about it. It just happens. The body knows how to listen when the world grows this quiet. The blanket rests heavy across your shoulders. It smells of smoke, pine, and travel. All the places you've walked through, gathered here in a single scent. You pull it tighter and lean a little closer to the fire. Heat greets your cheeks, soft and patient. The cold brushes your back like a friend saying goodnight. Above you, the stars have multiplied again. They fill every inch of sky, 1,000 small flames echoing your own. The wind moves gently through the treetops, carrying their faint voices, a low, wordless hum. You tilt your head, listening. It sounds like breath spread across miles. The forest is still awake, but its motions have slowed. Somewhere in the distance an owl calls once, then waits. Its echo comes back softer, like it doesn't want to disturb anyone. You let that sound pass through you and return to the quiet. You stir the fire once more, just enough to wake a few buried embers. They flare briefly, painting your gloves in gold. Then they dim again. Content, you place one more piece of wood on top. Small, dry, perfect. It catches slowly, curling into flame without complaint. That will be enough to last the night. You check the sled one last time. The parcel rests where it has all evening, safe beneath the folded cloth, wax seal untouched. You brush away the thin film of frost that has gathered along its edge. The seal catches the firelight and glows like a red star. You nod once, a small gesture of promise kept. You return to the fire and sit again, lowering yourself onto the blanket that's spread across the packed snow. It's warmer than it should be, the ground beneath having absorbed the day's light and the fire's heat. You press your palm to it, the faint warmth of earth, alive even under winter's breath. The kettle is empty now. You pick it up and tilt it slightly, hearing only the soft rattle of ice beginning to form at the rim. You smile, then set it aside, upside down on the stones, where it will frost clean by morning. The coals shift again. Tiny sparks leap, hover, and vanish. Each one leaves a trail that lingers in your eyes like a thought just about to fade. You follow the last one until it disappears into the night. Your hands find the journal again, but this time you don't open it. There's nothing left to write, not because there's nothing to say, but because the day has already said it. You trace the edge of the cover once with your thumb, then lay it beside you. You lie back slowly, still sitting upright at first, then lower until your shoulders find the blanket's fold. The movement makes a soft whisper in the snow. You rest your head on your arm, looking sideways into the fire. It feels closer from here, the light rising and falling with your breath. The trees above you sway gently, their tips drawing arcs against the starlight. The rhythm is so steady you can almost hear it, the slow dance of branches in air. Snow slips from one high bough, drifting soundlessly down until it lands with a soft hush a few feet away. You watch it fall and feel the air tremble when it lands. The scent of pine smoke curls above the fire, thin and blue. It winds upward through the cold until it blends into the stars. You imagine it reaching all the way to the ridge beyond, to the village that waits for the morning. For a moment, it feels like you've already arrived. You close your eyes halfway and listen again. The world moves slower now. Fire breathing, wind whispering, heart steady. Even the cold has softened, folding itself around the warmth rather than against it. You shift your legs, stretching them toward the fire. The soles of your boots gleam faintly, polished by the light. You watch the reflection tremble across the leather, tiny suns flickering with each change in flame. It feels hypnotic, the kind of rhythm that empties thought. You breathe in through your nose, smoke, pine, faint sweetness of herbs still clinging to the air. You breathe out through your mouth, steam drifting upward, caught in the firelight, turning gold for a second before disappearing. You repeat this a few times, each cycle slower than the one before. Your eyelids grow heavier, not from sleepiness, but from peace. There's nothing left that needs to be done. No decisions waiting at the edge of thought. Just the night, the fire, and the slow conversation between them. You glance at the parcel one last time. The wax still gleams red. Tomorrow, it will continue north, over the ridge, toward the place written in ink. But that's tomorrow's story. Tonight belongs to the fire. You pull the blanket tighter, tucking it under your arms. The fabric crackles softly as it folds around you, trapping the last of the heat. You shift again, finding the exact place where the ground curves to fit your shoulder blades. When you exhale, the breath leaves your body in a long, even cloud. The coals hum low, deep as a heartbeat. They pulse orange and red, fading slowly with each sigh of wind. You watch them blur and sharpen with every blink. It feels as though they're breathing for you now. You reach one hand out toward the warmth, not close enough to touch, just enough to feel it. Heat moves gently across your palm, the faintest shimmer against your skin. You keep it there, suspended in that space between warmth and cold. The air itself feels alive, electric and calm at once. You let your head sink fully onto the folded blanket now. The stars above stretch endlessly, silent witnesses to this small circle of light. The fire's glow flickers across your face, turning your breath to gold. Every sound in the clearing has slowed. Even the wind pauses now between movements. Your thoughts do the same. They no longer travel forward or back. They hover here between flame and sky, as weightless as the smoke that rises beside you. You breathe again, in through the nose, the faint sharpness of winter, out through the mouth, the soft warmth of your own breath meeting the cold. Your body follows that rhythm naturally, without effort. It's the language of rest, and you speak it fluently now. The fire lowers another inch, and the circle of light contracts slightly, not fading, just folding closer, keeping only what belongs. You feel your heartbeat slow to match it. Even your pulse in your fingertips begins to move in time with the glow. The blanket warms with each exhale. The cold air brushes only your face now, and it feels gentle, almost kind. You close your eyes for a moment, then open them again, just to see the stars one more time. They haven't moved, but somehow they look different. Closer, maybe. Or maybe it's you who's stilling enough to meet them halfway. You think of the note again. The firelight will guide you home. You understand it now. Home isn't the cabin or the village. It's this circle of warmth in the middle of a quiet world. This moment where breath and flame agree to rest together. You shift once more, turning slightly onto your side. The snow beneath the blanket gives softly, shaping to you. Your hand slips free from the blanket and rests near the fire, palm open, fingers loose. The air between them glows faintly, flickering in gold and red. Your eyes drift lower. Blink once. The stars blur. Blink twice. The fire softens. Blink a third time, and the world narrows to sound and warmth. The last thing you hear is the low hum of the coals. The last thing you feel is the heat against your cheek, gentle as breath. You draw in one final deep breath, and as you exhale, the world exhales with you. The forest stays still. The fire holds its glow, and you, quiet now, steady, warm, let sleep take you.